The Kalari research vessel Whispered Truth drifted silently through the void between stars, its sleek hull reflecting the distant light of an unremarkable yellow sun. Commander Zethka stood on the bridge, his tall frame casting shadows across the control panels as he studied the data streaming across the main display. His species had been exploring the galaxy for over 10,000 years, and in all that time, they had never encountered a more peaceful civilization than their own. The Kalari were known throughout the known galaxy as mediators and peacekeepers. Their pale blue skin and large, gentle eyes had witnessed the rise and fall of countless species, yet they had never once raised a weapon in anger. War was simply not in their nature. They existed to catalog, to understand, and to guide younger species toward enlightenment and harmony. "Commander," called Dr. Nithri from her station near the back of the bridge. Her voice carried the soft musical quality typical of their kind. "The preliminary scans of the third planet are complete. The species appears to be in their early technological phase. They have achieved basic spaceflight and have established small colonies on their moon." Zethka turned toward her, his long fingers clasping behind his back. "Any signs of aggression or military conflict?" "None that our sensors can detect," she replied, her head tilting as she reviewed the data. "In fact, quite the opposite. We're observing extensive cooperation between their various nation-states. They appear to be working together on large-scale projects involving their planet's climate and ocean systems." The commander moved closer to examine the readings himself. The planet below was beautiful, covered in swirling white clouds and vast blue oceans. Continents of green and brown stretched across its surface, dotted with lights that indicated large population centers. It reminded him of Kalari Prime before the Great Migration to the stars. "What do they call themselves?" he asked. "The dominant species refers to itself as human," Dr. Nithri said, bringing up visual recordings on the main screen. "They are bipedal, similar to us in basic structure, but shorter and more compact. Their skin tones vary widely, and they appear to have significant cultural diversity across their planet." The screen filled with images of daily life on the world below. Humans walked through busy streets, tending to their young, working in fields, and gathering in large groups for what appeared to be recreational activities. Children played in open spaces while adults watched with obvious affection. In one city, humans were helping each other clean up after what looked like a natural disaster, working side by side regardless of their physical differences. "They seem remarkably cooperative," Zethka observed. "Look at how they care for their elderly and infirm. And see there how they share resources during times of need." Dr. Nithri nodded, though something in her expression suggested concern. "Commander, there is something else. While running the standard database cross-reference for this star system, I discovered something unusual." She called up a new display, this one showing a map of the local galactic region with various star systems highlighted in different colors. Most were marked in blue or green, indicating peaceful or neutral species. A few showed red for aggressive civilizations, but one small section near the edge of the map glowed with an ominous purple light. "These coordinates match exactly with the location of this system," she said, pointing to the purple marker. "According to our historical records, 17 different extinct civilizations left warnings about this specific region of space." Zethka felt a chill run through his body. "What kind of warnings?" "That's the strange part," Dr. Nithri continued, her voice growing quieter. "Each civilization used different languages, different symbols, different methods of record keeping. But when translated, they all say essentially the same thing." She brought up a series of ancient texts on the screen, each one accompanied by its translation into modern Kalari script. The commander read them silently, his large eyes growing wider with each entry. "From the Vorthic Empire, beware the sleepers of the blue world. They wake when threatened. From the Nexus Collective, the children of the third planet appear peaceful, but something terrible sleeps within them. From the Krellian Republic, we thought them weak. We were wrong. The sleepers wake, each message carried the same basic warning, though the details varied. Some spoke of visitors from a blue world who seemed harmless until provoked. Others described a species that appeared to be peaceful farmers and builders, but transformed into something else entirely when attacked. All of them mentioned sleep, or awakening, or something hidden beneath a peaceful surface. 17 civilizations, Zethka whispered, all extinct, all warning about the same coordinates. There's more, Commander, Dr. Nithri said, bringing up additional data. I've been analyzing the timeline of these warnings. They span nearly 50,000 years, but they all describe encounters with beings that match the basic physical description of the humans we're observing now. The commander stared at the peaceful scenes still playing on the secondary monitors. In one feed, a human male with dark hair was helping an elderly woman carry supplies to her dwelling. In another, a female human with brown skin was reading to a group of small children who listened with rapt attention. A third screen showed a human with red hair working alongside others to repair damage to their community's infrastructure. It makes no sense, Zethka said finally. These beings appear to be among the most peaceful species we've ever encountered. They show compassion, cooperation, and genuine care for their own kind and their environment. How could they possibly be connected to warnings of such terror? Dr. Nithri manipulated the controls, bringing up more detailed scans of human settlements. Perhaps the warnings are simply myths, Commander. Stories passed down and embellished. Over time, after all, many of these civilizations were known to be aggressive themselves. Maybe they projected their own violent nature onto a species they didn't understand. But even as she spoke, something nagged at the back of her mind. The warnings were too consistent, too specific. And there was something else, something in the genetic scans they had taken of the humans below. Their DNA was unlike anything in the galactic database. It was too perfect, too optimized, as if it had been deliberately designed rather than naturally evolved. Commander, she said slowly, I recommend we observe them for several more cycles before making any decision about first contact. There may be more to learn about these humans before we reveal ourselves. Zethka nodded, though his gaze remained fixed on the images of humans going about their daily lives. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a voice whispered that perhaps some sleeping things were meant to remain undisturbed. But his scientific curiosity was stronger than his caution, and he found himself wondering what could possibly be hidden beneath such apparent innocence. Continue monitoring, he ordered. I want to know everything about these humans before we make our presence known. Dr. Nithri stood in the archaeological bay of the Whispered Truth, surrounded by holographic displays showing 3 different dead worlds. Commander Zethka had authorized her to investigate the source of the ancient warnings, and what she found on each planet made her more nervous with every discovery. The first expedition took her team to Vorth Prime, a world that had been silent for over 30,000 years. The Vorthok had been a proud warrior race, known throughout their region for their military might and advanced weapons technology. Yet something had wiped them out completely, leaving behind only empty cities and massive underground bunkers. The ruins stretched for miles beneath the planet's surface. Dr. Nithri walked through corridors carved from solid rock, her portable lights revealing walls covered in detailed murals. The artwork told a story that made her skin crawl with each new panel she examined. The first murals showed the Vorthok as they had been in life, tall and powerful beings with 4 arms and natural armor plating. They were depicted as conquerors, spreading across multiple star systems and defeating other species with ease. But then the artwork changed, showing the arrival of visitors from Space. The These visitors looked remarkably similar to the humans Dr. Nithri had been observing on Earth. They were small compared to the mighty Vorthik, with soft skin and no natural weapons. The murals showed them emerging from simple spacecraft, offering gifts and displaying peaceful gestures. The Vorthik artists had painted them with gentle expressions and outstretched hands, but something had gone wrong. The next series of murals showed the peaceful visitors transforming into something else entirely. Their gentle faces became twisted with rage. Their soft bodies moved with impossible speed and strength. The final panels depicted the Vorthik warriors. Despite all their natural advantages and advanced weapons, being overwhelmed by these transformed visitors, the last mural was the most disturbing. It showed the visitors returning to their normal appearance after the battle, calmly walking among the dead Vorthik as if nothing had happened. They looked peaceful again, almost sad, but the destruction around them told a different story. Dr. Nithri found the written records in a sealed chamber deep within the bunker complex. The Vorthik military commanders had left detailed accounts of their encounters with the visitors. According to their reports, a small exploration vessel had crashed on one of their outer colonies. When the Vorthik went to investigate, they found the survivors and assumed they would make easy prisoners. The Vorthik had attacked without warning, killing several of the visitors before capturing the rest. They thought it would be a simple matter to study these weak aliens and add their technology to their own. Instead, within days of the attack, massive fleets appeared throughout Vorthik space. The visitors had returned in numbers that blocked out the stars. What followed was not a war, but an extermination. The Vorthik, despite their superior size and strength, found themselves completely outmatched. The visitors fought with a coordination and brutality that defied everything the Vorthik understood about warfare. They showed no mercy, took no prisoners, and left no survivors, except for a few scattered groups that managed to hide in the deepest bunkers. The Second World, Nexus 7, told a similar but even more disturbing story. The Nexus Collective had been a peaceful trading civilization, much like the Kalari themselves. They had encountered the same visitors from the Blue World and had initially welcomed them as potential trading partners. Dr. Nithri explored the remains of their capital city, now nothing but twisted metal and shattered crystal structures. In the center of the ruins stood a massive military complex that clearly had been built in desperate haste. The architecture was completely different from the rest of the city, designed purely for defense rather than the aesthetic beauty the Nexus had been known for. Inside the complex, she found automated defense systems that were still functional. After millennia, the computer systems recognized her alien DNA and immediately powered up, targeting weapons at her before she could convince them she was not a threat. The programming was specific and terrifying in its focus. Destroy anything. Carrying human genetic markers, the Nexus records were more detailed than those of the Vorthik. They described years of peaceful contact with the visitors, who had established a small colony on one of the outer planets in their system. Trade had flourished, and the Nexus had even begun to consider offering full membership in their collective to these newcomers. Then pirates had attacked the human colony. The Nexus fleet had been too far away to help, and by the time they arrived, most of the visitors were dead. The Nexus had thought the matter closed, a tragic but not uncommon occurrence in a galaxy full of dangers. They were wrong. Within weeks, ships began arriving from the direction of the Blue World. Not dozens or hundreds, but thousands. The visitors had returned, and they were no longer interested in trade or friendship. They wanted answers, justice, and revenge. The Nexus tried to explain that they had not been responsible for the attack, that they had done everything they could to help. The visitors listened politely to their explanations, then systematically began destroying every Nexus colony and outpost in their space. They worked with mechanical efficiency, offering no mercy to military targets or civilian populations alike. The third world, Krell, provided the most complete picture of what these visitors were truly capable of. Dr. Nithray found herself standing in a perfectly preserved command bunker, where the last Krellian general had recorded a final message before his civilization ended. The hologram activated as she entered the room, showing a massive reptilian being covered in scars from recent battles. His voice was filled with exhaustion and defeat as he spoke into the recording device. The Krellians had been confident in their superiority when they encountered a human exploration ship at the edge of their territory. The vessel was small and lightly armed, carrying only a few dozen crew members. The Krellian battle fleet had destroyed it without hesitation, seeing it as target practice for their warriors. What followed had been the fastest military defeat in Krellian history. The humans had arrived within days, bringing with them technology and tactics that made the Krellian military look like primitive savages. They fought with a combination of advanced weapons and savage brutality that overwhelmed every defense the Krellians could mount. But it was not just their military might that had destroyed the Krellians. According to the general's final message, the humans had demonstrated an understanding of Krellian society and psychology that should have been impossible for a species they had just met. They knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage, which leaders to target, and how to turn the Krellian population against their own government. Dr. Nethri returned to the whispered truth, with her mind full of disturbing questions. 3. Different civilizations, separated by thousands of years and light years of space, had all encountered the same peaceful visitors from a blue world. And in each case, when those visitors were threatened or attacked, they had responded with overwhelming force and tactical brilliance that suggested they were far more than they appeared to be. Back on Earth, the humans continued their normal lives, unaware they were being watched. She observed Jake Morrison helping his neighbors repair storm damage to their homes. Lisa Campbell was teaching children about cooperation and kindness in her classroom. Ben Rodriguez was working double shifts to help victims of a natural disaster. Looked so innocent, so genuinely caring and peaceful. But the evidence from 3 dead worlds suggested that something else lived beneath that peaceful surface, something that awakened when threatened and left nothing but silence in its wake. Commander Zethka paced the bridge of the whispered truth, his mind torn between what his eyes told him and what the ancient records suggested. For 3 weeks now, they had observed the humans going about their daily lives, and everything he saw spoke of a gentle and caring species. Yet the evidence Dr. Nithri had brought back from the dead worlds painted a very different picture. "Commander," Dr. Nithri said from her station, "I must strongly advise against any direct contact with the humans. The pattern is too consistent across all 3 civilizations. Something about these beings changes when they perceive a threat." Zethka stopped pacing and looked at the main screen, which showed a human settlement in what their databases indicated was called North America. Children were playing in a large open area, while adults watched from nearby benches. The scene was so peaceful, it made his chest ache with longing for the simple days of his own youth on Kaleri Prime. "But look at them," he said, gesturing toward the screen. "They show nothing but kindness to each other. Their young ones play without fear. Their adults care for the elderly and sick. How can beings capable of such compassion be the same creatures that destroyed 3 entire civilizations?" Dr. Nithri brought up her genetic analysis data on a secondary display. "The DNA scans are unlike anything in our databases, Commander. Their genetic structure shows signs of artificial modification, as if someone deliberately altered their basic nature. There are dormant sequences in their genetic code that appear to be suppressed by some kind of biological mechanism." "Artificial modification?" Zethka asked, moving closer to examine the data. "Are you suggesting these humans were created by another species?" "Not created," Dr. Nithri replied carefully. "Modified. The base genetic pattern is ancient, but it has been changed in very specific ways. Someone took a naturally aggressive species and tried to make them peaceful. The commander felt a chill run through his body. If the humans had been artificially modified to suppress their aggressive nature, what would happen if that modification ever failed? What would happen if something triggered the return of their original personality? "Sir?" called navigation officer Kethlo from his position near the front of the bridge. "I have an idea that might help us understand these humans better. What if we tested their reactions without actually making contact?" Zethka turned toward the young officer. "What do you have in mind?" "We could stage a false emergency," Kethlo suggested. "Broadcast a distress signal claiming to be peaceful explorers in need of assistance. If the humans are truly as peaceful as they appear, they will offer help. If they are hiding something dangerous, their response might reveal their true nature." "Doctor." Nithri shook her head immediately. "That is exactly what we should not do. Every civilization that encountered the humans was destroyed after some kind of perceived threat or attack. Even staging a false emergency could trigger whatever mechanism turns them from peaceful beings into something else." But Commander Zethka found himself considering the idea. His scientific training demanded that he gather more information before making any decisions about first contact. The Kalari had protocols for dealing with aggressive species, but they had never encountered a situation like this before. "We would not actually threaten them," he said slowly. "We would simply observe their response to what appears to be a peaceful request for aid. If they truly are as compassionate as they seem, they will send help. If they are hiding military capabilities, we will discover that as well." "Commander, please reconsider," Dr. Nithri pleaded. "The risk is too great. What if our presence alone is enough to trigger their aggressive response?" But Zethka had made his decision. The need to understand these humans had become overwhelming. The Kalari were explorers and peacekeepers, and they could not ignore an entire species, simply because of ancient warnings that might be nothing more than exaggerated stories. "We will proceed with extreme caution," he announced. "Kethlo, prepare a distress beacon. Make it clear that we are peaceful explorers whose ship has suffered damage from unknown attackers. Position us near their moon, where they cannot fail to detect our signal." The next few hours passed slowly as the whispered truth moved into position. Dr. Nithri monitored the genetic scanners while other crew members prepared recording equipment to capture every detail of the human response. Commander Zethka stood at the center of the bridge, trying to appear confident while his mind raced with possibilities. The distress signal went out on frequencies they knew the humans monitored. Within minutes, radio chatter began flowing between various human installations on their planet and moon bases. The communications were in several different human languages, but the translation computers quickly provided understanding. "Unknown vessel, this is Earth Defense Command," came the first response. "We have received your distress signal. Please state the nature of your emergency and your current condition." Commander Zethka smiled slightly. The response was exactly what he had hoped for, professional but concerned. He nodded to his communications officer, who began broadcasting their prepared message about peaceful exploration and ship damage from hostile unknown vessels. "Understood, unknown vessel," came the human reply. "We are dispatching a rescue ship to your location. Please maintain your current position and prepare to receive assistance." Dr. Nithri looked up from her scanners with surprise. "Commander, they are actually sending help. A single vessel has left their moon base and is heading in our direction. The ship appears to be designed for rescue operations, not military action." Within hours, the human rescue ship arrived. It was smaller than the whispered truth, but clearly well equipped for emergency situations. The vessel approached slowly and broadcast continuous messages of peaceful intent. "This is Captain Amy Chun of the Earth vessel Aurora's Hope," came a clear female voice over the communication channel. "We are here to provide assistance. Do you require medical aid, technical support, or escort to a safe location?" Commander Zethka felt relief washing through him. The humans were responding exactly as a peaceful, caring species should respond to beings in distress. Perhaps the ancient warnings had been wrong after all. Perhaps 3 aggressive civilizations had simply projected their own violent nature onto an innocent species. "Dr. Nithri," he said quietly, "begin detailed scans of the rescue vessel and its crew. I want to know everything about these humans while they are close enough for proper analysis." Dr. Nithri activated her scanning equipment and began collecting data on the approaching ship. What she found made her hands shake as she worked the controls. The human vessel carried defensive systems far more advanced than anything they had detected from orbit. The crew showed genetic markers that suggested capabilities far beyond normal biological limits. Most disturbing of all, when she focused her scanners on the individual humans aboard the rescue ship, she detected something that made her blood freeze. Each human carried dormant neural pathways that appeared designed for rapid tactical thinking and enhanced combat reflexes. Their peaceful behavior was genuine, but it was overlaying something else entirely. "Commander," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "the humans on that ship are not what they appear to be. Their genetics show signs of suppressed capabilities that could be activated under stress conditions. But it was too late to change course. The Aurora's Hope had already docked with their ship, and Captain Amy Chun was requesting permission to come aboard with her medical and technical teams. "Commander." Zethka found himself face to face with a decision that would determine the fate of both species. Captain Amy Chun stepped through the airlock of the Whispered Truth with her medical team, her friendly smile masking the careful way her eyes examined every detail of the alien vessel. She moved with the confident stride of someone accustomed to emergency situations, her dark hair pulled back in a practical style, and her uniform bearing patches that indicated years of rescue service. "Commander Zethka, I presume," she said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. "I'm Captain Chun of the Aurora's Hope. We received your distress call and came as quickly as we could. What's your situation?" Commander Zethka took her offered hand, noting how firm her grip was, despite her relatively small size compared to his own species. "Captain Chun, we are grateful for your assistance. We are explorers from the Kalari Collective, and our ship suffered damage during an encounter with hostile vessels. We are peaceful researchers with no military capabilities." Dr. Nithri watched the exchange from her position near the scanning equipment, her instruments quietly analyzing every human who had come aboard. What she saw made her more nervous with each passing moment. The humans appeared relaxed and friendly, but their genetic scans revealed something entirely different. Lieutenant Paul Walker, the security officer from the Aurora's Hope, stood near the airlock with his hands clasped behind his back. His posture looked casual, but Dr. Nithri's scanners showed that his muscle tension and brain activity suggested a state of high alertness. When his eyes briefly met hers across the bridge, she saw something flicker behind his friendly expression. Something ancient and calculating that disappeared so quickly she might have imagined it. "We've brought medical supplies and repair equipment," Captain Chun continued, her voice warm with genuine concern. "Our engineers can help patch your systems, and our medics can treat any injuries your crew might have sustained." Commander Zethka felt his doubts about the ancient warnings beginning to fade. These humans showed nothing but kindness and professionalism. They had responded to a distress call from complete strangers with immediate offers of help, asking for nothing in return. "Your generosity is overwhelming," he replied. "We are fortunate to have encountered such a compassionate species." Dr. Nithri's scanning equipment continued its silent work. building a detailed picture of human biology that grew more disturbing by the minute. The humans carried genetic modifications that appeared designed to suppress natural aggressive instincts. But those modifications seemed to be controlled by some kind of biological trigger system. If the right conditions were met, the peaceful nature of these beings could potentially be overridden. The rescue operation proceeded smoothly for the next several hours. Human engineers worked alongside Kalari technicians to repair the simulated damage to the Whispered Truth systems. Captain Chun shared stories of her years in rescue service, describing missions where her crews had saved beings from dozens of different species. "We've always believed that life is precious, regardless of what form it takes," she said as she and Commander Zethka toured the ship together. "When we hear a distress call, we respond. It's just who we are as a people." But Dr. Nithri had discovered something that made her hands shake as she worked her controls. The genetic scans revealed that every adult human aboard the rescue ship possessed military training that went far beyond what would be expected for a civilian rescue crew. Their neural pathways showed patterns consistent with advanced tactical education, weapons training, and combat experience. More disturbing still, she detected traces of artificial genetic markers that suggested the humans had been systematically modified at some point in their evolutionary history. The modifications appeared designed to suppress aggressive instincts and enhance cooperative behavior, but they included what looked like an override system that could restore the original personality under specific conditions. Commander Zethka had made a fatal error in judgment, believing that he could maintain the deception while learning more about human nature. He authorized what he thought would be a minor test. As the rescue operation neared completion, he ordered his weapons officer to fire a single warning shot near the Aurora's Hope, claiming it was an accidental discharge caused by the recent repairs. The response was immediate and terrifying. Captain Amy Chun's friendly demeanor vanished in an instant, replaced by cold tactical precision that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her genetic memory. Her voice became sharp and commanding as she barked orders to her crew through her communication device. "All teams return to ship immediately. Battle stations. Unknown vessel has fired on us. Implement emergency protocols now." Lieutenant Paul Walker moved with fluid speed that should have been impossible for someone who claimed to be a simple security officer. His casual posture disappeared, replaced by the deadly grace of a trained warrior as he positioned himself between the Kalari crew and the airlock. The Aurora's Hope began deploying weapon systems that definitely had not shown up in any of the Kalari scans. Hidden panels slid open along the hull, revealing advanced energy cannons and missile launchers. The rescue ship transformed before their eyes from a peaceful civilian vessel into a military craft designed for serious combat. On Earth, the reaction was even more dramatic. Dr. Nithri watched her long-range scanners with growing horror as the planet below began revealing its true nature. Jake Morrison abandoned his construction site as emergency broadcasts activated hidden protocols throughout the human population. Lisa Campbell calmly evacuated her students to underground shelters that had not appeared on any of their orbital surveys. Ben Rodriguez transitioned seamlessly from civilian paramedic to combat medic, joining rapid response teams that seemed to have been waiting for exactly this moment. The transformation was happening everywhere, across the planet simultaneously. Adults who had appeared to be peaceful civilians were revealing military training that suggested decades of preparation. Children were moved to secure locations with practiced efficiency that spoke of regular drills. Hidden defensive installations began powering up across every continent. Within hours, Earth's defensive fleet emerged from concealment throughout the solar system. Ships that had been hidden behind asteroids, camouflaged against planetary surfaces, and disguised as civilian vessels revealed themselves as military craft of advanced design. The fleet was massive, well-armed, and had clearly been positioned for exactly this kind of situation. "Commander," Dr. Nithri said, her voice barely above a whisper, "we have made a terrible mistake. The humans were not hiding their military capabilities from us. They were hiding them from everyone, including themselves." Admiral Kate Rodriguez, Ben's older sister and commander of the Hidden Defense Fleet, peered on the main communications screen. Her uniform was crisp and professional, but her eyes held the same calculating intelligence that Dr. Nithri had glimpsed in Lieutenant Walker. "Alien vessel," Admiral Rodriguez said, her voice carrying unmistakable authority. "You have 30 minutes to explain why you fired on our rescue ship. We strongly recommend you provide a satisfactory answer." Commander Zethkar realized with growing dread that the ancient warnings had been absolutely correct. Humanity was far more dangerous than they appeared, and by testing them, he had potentially triggered the very catastrophe that 3 previous civilizations had tried to warn the galaxy about. The peaceful humans he had observed were real, but they were only one part of a much larger and more complex picture. Something had been sleeping beneath the surface of human civilization, and his actions had begun the process of waking it up. The meeting took place in a sterile conference room built into the surface of Earth's moon, far from the eyes of the general population. Commander Zethkar sat across from Admiral Kate Rodriguez, while Dr. Nithri trembled beside him as she reviewed the data that had brought them to this moment. The room was simple and functional, with white walls and basic furniture that spoke of efficiency rather than comfort. Director Sam Hayes entered the room carrying a thick folder of documents and a heavy expression that suggested he carried the weight of humanity's greatest secrets. He was a tall man with graying hair and tired eyes that had seen too much over the years. When he spoke, his voice carried the quiet authority of someone who had spent decades making decisions that most people would never know about. "Commander Zethkar," Director Hayes said as he took his seat, "before we begin, I want you to understand that everything you are about to learn has been classified at the highest levels of human government for over 2,000 years. The information I am about to share with you will change how you see our species forever." Admiral Rodriguez leaned forward, her hands folded on the table in front of her. "The ancient warnings your people found were correct. Humans are exactly as dangerous as those dead civilizations claimed we were. But the story is more complicated than simple aggression." Director Hayes opened his folder and spread several documents across the table. The pages contained genetic charts, historical records, and photographs that seemed to span thousands of years of human development. "Commander, what do you know about genetic modification on a species-wide scale?" "It is theoretically possible," Commander Zethkar replied carefully, "but no civilization we know of has ever attempted to alter their own fundamental nature. The risks would be enormous." "The risks were enormous," Director Hayes agreed. "But 35,000 years ago, humanity faced a choice between modification and extinction. We chose modification." Dr. Nithri looked up from her datapad, where she had been reviewing the genetic scans. "The artificial markers we detected in human DNA, they are not recent modifications. They are ancient, integrated into your genetic structure over thousands of generations." Director Hayes nodded grimly. "Humanity is not native to Earth. Our ancestors were a nomadic warrior species that conquered most of this region of the galaxy. We were efficient, brutal, and completely without mercy when we encountered other forms of life. For over 10,000 years, we spread across the stars like a plague." Admiral Rodriguez activated a holographic display that showed the local galactic region as it had existed in ancient times. Red markers indicated human-controlled systems, and there were hundreds of them stretching across thousands of light-years of space. "We were eventually stopped by a coalition of peaceful species who banded together out of desperation," she continued. "The war lasted for centuries, and devastated entire sectors of space. When it finally ended, the Coalition faced a choice about what to do with the survivors of our species. They could have destroyed us completely, Director Hayes said, his voice growing quieter. They had every right to eliminate a species that had caused so much suffering. Instead, they chose a different path. They offered us redemption through transformation. Commander Zethka felt his understanding of the situation shifting as the true scope of humanity's history became clear. They modified your genetic structure to make you peaceful. Not just peaceful, Director Hayes replied. They gave us the capacity for genuine empathy, cooperation, and love. The humans you observed on Earth, caring for their families and helping their neighbors, are not pretending. Those emotions are real. The modifications worked exactly as intended. Dr. Nithri studied the genetic charts spread across the table. But the modifications included a fail-safe system. If humans detected external threats, the peaceful conditioning could be overridden. Admiral Rodriguez's expression grew somber. The Coalition was not naive. They understood that a completely pacified species would be vulnerable to extinction if they encountered genuine threats. So they built in a protection mechanism. If humanity faced attack from outside forces, our original nature would begin to reassert itself. The sleepers wake when threatened, Commander Zethka whispered, remembering the ancient warnings. Exactly, Director Hayes said. For thousands of years, the modification worked perfectly. Humans lived peacefully on Earth, developing art, philosophy, and science. We became everything the Coalition hoped we could become. But we never forgot what we had been. The holographic display changed to show Earth's hidden defensive networks. Military installations concealed beneath cities, weapon systems disguised as civilian infrastructure, and fleets of warships hidden throughout the solar system. Our governments have known the truth for centuries, Admiral Rodriguez explained. We have been preparing for the day when someone would test us, when the failsafe would activate and our original nature would begin to emerge. Every adult human receives military training disguised as civic education. Every child learns tactical thinking through games and sports. Dr. Nuthri looked at the data with new understanding. The genetic modifications are breaking down. Our scans show that the suppression mechanisms are weakening with each generation. Director Hayes nodded gravely. The Coalition scientists warned us this would happen eventually. The modifications were never meant to be permanent. They were designed to give us time to learn how to be better than we were. And have you learned? Commander Zethka asked. Admiral Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment before answering. We hope so. The question now is what happens next. We could return to our old ways, reclaim our place as galactic conquerors. The military strength is still there, sleeping beneath the surface. Or we could choose to be something new. Director Hayes leaned back in his chair. Commander, your people discovered Earth at a critical moment in our development. The modification is failing, but we are not the same species we were 35,000 years ago. We have learned to value life, to protect the weak, and to build rather than destroy. What are you proposing? Commander Zethka asked. An alliance, Admiral Rodriguez said simply. The galaxy needs protectors, being strong enough to face genuine threats but wise enough to know when not to fight. We could be those protectors, but we need guidance from species like yours to ensure we never become what we once were. Commander Zethka looked at Dr. Nithri, who was studying her scanners with intense concentration. Doctor, what do your readings tell you about human intentions? The genetic markers for aggression are active, she replied carefully, but they are balanced by equally strong markers for protection and cooperation. These humans are not the same species that conquered the galaxy. They are something new. Director Hayes stood and walked to the window that looked out over Earth's surface. In the distance, The blue and green planet turned slowly in space, beautiful and peaceful in appearance, but hiding secrets that spanned millennia. The ancient warnings were right, he said finally. Something far worse than we appeared did lie hidden on Earth, but that something has learned to choose protection over conquest. The question is whether the galaxy can accept humanity as guardians, rather than conquerors. Admiral Rodriguez joined him at the window. We are offering the galaxy a choice. Accept our protection against genuine threats, or face the consequences of treating Earth's children as enemies. We will not be victims again, but we do not wish to be conquerors either. Commander Zethka realized that he was witnessing a turning point in galactic history. Humanity had awakened from their long sleep, but they had chosen to be protectors, rather than destroyers. The ancient warnings had been accurate, but they had not predicted that monsters could learn to become guardians. The sleepers had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same.